Katie Karpinski is a double alumna from CSU and is thrilled to take part in this Every Film is a Startup. Katie's passions lie in combining creativity and analysis to help businesses reach their marketing goals. While she works full time as the marketing and communications manager for the Catholic Cemeteries Association, Katie also works as a freelance digital marketing specialist. Some of her most recent clients include National Software Escrow, Jurgens Manufacturing, and the Professional Development Center in the Montehuja College of Business. She holds her bachelor's degree in marketing and creative writing, as well as an MBA in business administration. Welcome, Katie.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. And Dan, your portion was just so interesting. So I'm hoping this is a nice complement to that. And I haven't had a lot of experience with film, so I'm just really interested to see, after hearing all of this, if any of the students have anything to say. But I'm just here to share with you some Facebook tips that can hopefully, help you in your film as you get started here. Oh, I have to go down here. Okay. So I had kind of 5 major areas I wanted to talk about today. And I just wanted to spend most of the time talking about actually creating your Facebook page and, putting out some really good content, because it's a nice free way to support your film and to get the, that promotional distribution channel kind of out there that Dan was talking about. And then I also want to spend some time on measuring those results from your organic Facebook reach. And then if we have time, I'd like to talk about Facebook ads, but if we don't, I have step-by-step diagram of how to do all of that. So don't worry if we run out of time, I'll make sure you guys have that information at the end. So just really quick, I like to just take a moment to talk about why Facebook. I think a lot of people wonder if Facebook is still relevant to marketing and promotion, and it is. I just threw a few stats up there, but basically, Facebook isn't going anywhere. It's one of the most used web platforms in the world, and it is one of the most active social channels. It is the most active social channel. So it's really important to be active on Facebook and learn how to leverage it to reach whatever goal it is you're trying to accomplish. Okay, so I'm assuming most of you in the room are digital natives, so you're familiar with Facebook and how it works from a personal social aspect. So the nice thing is Facebook business pages or film pages, which is what you guys would probably be more interested in, are pretty similar. There's just a few differences, and that's the whole point of me talking to you today. But to create a business page or a film page, you need to have a personal page. And that's something that Facebook hasn't really talked about why that is, why you can't just log on as a business, but they want you to run everything through your personal page. So myself, I just use it all under like just my normal username. Some people, if they want to keep like their business and their personal separate, they'll create a separate personal account that's dedicated just for their business stuff. So it's really up to you, but to create a business or a film page, you need to have some type of personal page to link it to. The second thing you'll need is the name of your film or the name of your page. And the third thing is your film category or your page category, sorry. So those are the 3 things you should have going into, like before you even sit down to create your page, you should have those things pretty much established. And I put here an optional thing you can do is create a 150-word description for your film, which I've seen films do it and I've seen them not. It just depends on the feel. Like if you want a more mysterious feel, you don't need to include it, but it's a nice little extra. I also have a note down here when you're creating your page, there is a movie page category, but there's also some subcategories that when you're typing in, you can kind of just play with. So again, I've never promoted a film before, but before this, I kind of went in and was playing around. There's like a documentary one, there's movie, there's like entertainment website, like kind of, it sounded like almost like a streaming specific one. So there's lots of things you can do to make sure you're in the right category. Okay, so I just want to show you really quick where to go to actually create the page. So like I said, you have your personal account open, you have the name of your film, and you have like the category you want to be listed under going on in your mind. So all you have to do, this is just the home screen of Facebook. So all I did was log into my personal account. So you can see all the random golden retriever accounts I follow. And this is us up at the top there. But all you do is go to this plus sign that's right next to your profile picture and go down to page. And that's all you do. You just go down and press page. So after you do that, this screen is going to pop up. And you'll see on the left-hand side, I highlighted that red rectangle. And that's just where you're going to put all the information I just listed to you. Page name, the category you want, and then the description if you want to include that also. So just super, super easy to actually create the page. And next thing we're going to talk about is that right-hand side, which is optimizing the page once it's created. Okay, so like I said, a lot of people know that they need to be on social media, that they should be on Facebook. They make their page, but they're not really sure where to go from there. So I just have this little comic up. You can read it later. But the next step that I'm going to talk about is actually, again, optimizing it, creating good quality relevant posts that are going to bring viewers to your page. Okay, so again, I kind of narrowed this down to 5 things. This whole presentation is kind of a bird's eye view of how to approach Facebook, just because you could take a whole, semester long course on social media alone. But these are kind of the 5 most important things in my opinion. So the first thing is, you want to have really nice profile pictures and cover photos for your page. And obviously these need to relate back to your film. So I'll show you some examples here in a second of some ones that I thought were really well done. Next thing is, again, if you have a personal Facebook page, you're kind of familiar with how it works, but you can go in once your page is created and fill in additional information about your film, where they can buy tickets. You'll see the next point there is you can add some different buttons and plugins that relate to it. And really just a good word of thumb or rule of thumb is that, the more information you're able to give, the more information your customer can use or your viewer can use to reach you in your film and what you're trying to communicate to them. So again, just correct, complete, keep it updated. Again, choosing that movie category when you're creating your page is going to open the door for you to add on little buttons or plugins. It depends on what page you use, what they're called. But just additional call to actions for people visiting your page to help them purchase tickets or, stream your video online or whatever it might be. And again, I'm going to show you examples of all this in just a second. Something else I wanted to mention that is becoming increasingly important, especially in this during COVID. I can't say post-COVID yet because we're not over it, but since COVID, responding to messages to your page has become increasingly important. And the reason that is Facebook is really hunkering down on verifying what pages are active and legitimate businesses or films. So the more quickly you can respond to a message, and when I say that, I mean just like how you would chat with a friend online, someone might be able to message your page and ask a question about where they can buy tickets or where this film will be available. The quicker you can respond, the better, because that shows Facebook you're an active business engaging with customers, and that's going to help you just a lot in the long run in terms of validity. So even if it's just a really quick, hey, we received your message, we will get back to you as soon as possible, that's really important, again, just to show Facebook you're an actual business that's responding. So that's something new that's kind of come up over the past couple months. And then finally, one of the other most important things, again, just to show Facebook that you're an active business, is keeping to a consistent posting schedule. But I'm going to get to that later. So just keep that in the back of your mind. But these 5 things I'd say are pretty much the most important things when you're considering starting a Facebook page. So I just pulled some examples here. It was kind of difficult to find some newer films just because so many got pushed. But I thought The Tenant did a good job just with the profile picture and the cover photo. And then you'll see on the right-hand side there, that Book Now button that goes to Fandango. That's an example of one of those buttons or plugins that are available because it has that movie category. And you can see it's in the movie category because if you look right under the title of the film, it says movie. So that's just an example of what one could look like. I also pulled up Mulan. Again, it's just, one of the bigger names this year. And like Dan was saying, it had a very unique distribution and kind of promotional strategy that went along with it. So again, really nice profile cover photo. It has that movie category. And this one has the shop now. So this one actually sent you to download Disney Plus so you could watch it that way. So that shop now is for a Disney Plus thing. The other thing I thought that was interesting about this Mulan page is you can see that about section. So earlier when I mentioned, filling out your business information and just giving people little teasers and information about your film, I thought the quote was really interesting, and then the description there was really well done. And then finally, I thought I'd try and find more of like a documentary style film. And again, just another really good example, using their about section of their page, using the watch video button, which actually sends you directly to Netflix to watch this film. So all kinds of good examples. And if you have any films that you liked or, are well done, don't be afraid to copy. That's kind of a marketing thing. You always have to look at what other people are doing to stay competitive. So don't be afraid to just go and explore. Obviously, you can't copy word for word what they're doing, which wouldn't make sense for film anyway, but never be afraid to just go see what else is out there. Okay, so you created your page, you have all these awesome cover photos, profile photos, your business information is filled out. So now you're ready to start posting to your page. And there's kind of two different things you need to get a handle of before you start writing posts, and that is establishing your brand and then establishing your posting schedule. So I have these cute little comics, but we're going to keep going for the sake of time. So establishing your brand. So for this group, I don't think I need to spend too much time on storytelling. Normally, when I'm talking to people, I say, your brand should tell a story. It needs to have a unique personality, all that stuff. But as filmmakers, I think you already understand what it means to tell a story and have, a product have a personality. So this is just kind of a refresher for you guys. Some questions I use when I'm going and working with a new brand for the first time is I try and find like 3 to 4 adjectives that I can connect to that brand that help kind of guide how I write and the words I use. It's also really important to know who your intended viewing audience is. Obviously, you're going to speak different to, let's say, 18 to 25-year-olds than you would to 50 to 60-year-olds. So keep in mind who the viewing audience is for your film so you can write copy and you can use terms that might be more applicable to their stage in life or their gender or whatever it is, their interest, that might be. And then finally, what emotions do you want to elicit from your post or from your film? Emotion just plays such a huge part in obviously how people perceive things and how they interact with things online. So with film, you're kind of in a unique position where films can elicit any variety of emotions. Normally with marketing, if you're marketing a typical product, you always want that emotion to be positive in some way. But for film, you might be able to play off of, like suspenseful, that horror, whatever it might be. If you want to elicit interest or concern over an issue that's going on in our world, you can play off of that too. So this is just really a slide to remind you everything you write online should reinforce whatever your film is trying to say, and it should have that unique, really compelling personality. All right, so the next step is your posting schedule. And it's really recommended you have a schedule because, like I said, Facebook is looking to make sure you're being consistent in what you're posting so it can verify you and give you that little check mark next to your name of your film. So here are just some guidelines when it comes to that. You want to set realistic goals. So if you're someone who's wearing a million hats and social media is just one of those many hats, you don't want to overexert yourself, because if you post, let's say, like every day for 2 weeks and then don't post anything for a whole month, that's not going to look really good. So it's much better to just set realistic goals. I would recommend trying to post at least twice a week to start, which really isn't too bad, but that's like kind of the bare minimum. However, if you can post every day, that's even better. It just depends what your time looks like, but just be consistent about it, kind of lay it out ahead of time. Which goes with that second point, which is, once you have your schedule, stick to it, show Facebook you're real, because that is the struggle that so many people run into, is just showing Facebook, like, we are legitimate, we are here, we are not going anywhere. So next point, you want to test out a variety of photos and videos. And that also goes with the next point there too, which is experiment with different days and times. Especially when you're starting out, you really need to determine what your viewers want. And so that again comes to the content you're showing them and when you're showing them the content. So again, that just varies. Some viewers, especially with film, I'm not super familiar, but I imagine they would be more willing to watch a 2-minute trailer than your average everyday person who's just scrolling through their feed. And I'm going to touch more on that later. But again, variety is not a bad thing. So I would just recommend having several different pieces of content that you can then reuse and stagger later on. So for film, I was kind of, again, doing some preliminary research. It sounds like most people have like a nice bucket of 10-second clips that they pull from. So anywhere between like 8 to 10-second clips that they can stagger throughout their monthly schedule. And then in addition, they normally have like 1 or 2 30-second clips and then their 2-minute trailer, 1.5-minute trailer. So you kind of want to have a nice pool of those. And then you also want to have a decent pool of images that you can pull from. So whether they are still shots of the film, a poster, whatever it is, the more content you can pull from, the better, because you can give your viewers or your audience varied content. And then you can, kind of stagger them and try different days, times, and combinations of captions to photos to find out what works best. And then finally, when it comes to actually creating your schedule, it just depends on what your goals are for your Facebook page and your film promotion. And again, like Dan was saying, you can market at every stage in the film process. So depending on what stage you're in, your goals might shift. But sometimes it can be helpful to say, okay, this post, I'm really going to focus on getting, comments. So I'm going to ask them a question at the end of the caption. Or if it's reach, you might just really put a compelling caption and then, your trailer, whatever it might be. But assigning goals can be a nice way to kind of organize those thoughts and make sure your schedule has attributable metrics to go to at the end. All right, so I put some copywriting tips on here. I'm not gonna dwell too much on these because, again, as storytellers, as people in film, I'm sure you have some decent ideas about this. But the important thing for Facebook, and especially any social media, is to really let your image or video do most of the talking. Your caption should really be reserved for any call to action or question you want to ask your audience. Maybe you might put, a link to download or, stream your film or whatever that might be. But as a film, you have such an advantage in that your visual should be really compelling already. So you won't need to do too much work when it comes to the caption. Your caption should always plant seeds of interest. So, kind of leave them hanging. Try and get them to comment, share, do something, interact with your page somehow. It's really important to always speak directly to you. So act like you're having a one-on-one conversation with everyone who's interacting with your post. And again, just always think back to those brand adjectives and your brand voice and make sure that your posts are consistent. So the language and terminology you're using in one post should be consistent with later posts, and all of that should coincide well with the images you're using. And then again, I've mentioned a few times now, but if it's appropriate, put in a call to action. So a call to action, again, is just anything asking your customers to do. So whether it's, sending them to another page, streaming your film, watching the trailer, it's always nice to give them that little motivation to interact with you more. Okay, so that was the ad copy. So that's the caption. I just wanted to give you a few tips on the visuals for Facebook. As a reminder, you only have about 3 seconds to grab someone's attention. So if they're scrolling through their timeline, you really need to fight for that attention span because everyone's all over the place now. So the best things you can do are to make your visuals mobile friendly. So that means making sure they're in a vertical format or square format. And that square format is for Instagram because Facebook and Instagram are connected. They are owned by the same person, same company. So a lot of times you'll see your, if you have an Instagram account, your Facebook content will be linked to the Instagram account as well. So vertical or square. You obviously want to convey a clear message. So again, as filmmakers, you already know that. Don't have a bunch of random stuff all jumbled together in the same video clip. Have one segment, have one trailer, whatever that might be. And then finally, and this is another somewhat new development in the last year, we've noticed that when images or videos have graphic like text on them, they don't do as well. No one knows why, but we think it might be a new part of the Facebook algorithm where they're trying to keep those text and visual elements separate. So if you have like a thumbnail on, as a precursor to your video or a graphic or something, I think it's okay, like if you have the name of your film included on it, but I would just save any extra text for the caption, like the text portion of your post. And then finally, just some video specific ones. All of that applies to videos. So that vertical or square alignment, the clear message, all of that. With videos, again, you want to keep them short. So those 10-second clips are going to be really important. But again, you're in a unique position in that you can have that 2-minute trailer for people who do want to see it, just because film by nature is a video format. And then finally, for video, you just have to mind the mute, because so many people view videos on their phone and don't turn the volume on. So you want to make sure you have captions, or you have some like type of storytelling that doesn't require sound. So people who are like looking at their phone on work or in line at the bank can still get across the message that you're trying to tell them. Okay, so you have your posting schedule, your Facebook's up and running, it's great. But now we want to measure it. And like Lynn said, I put that in my bio. I think that information is so valuable because it really helps you make better decisions down the line. So I'm just going to spend a few seconds here showing you where you can find metrics about your Facebook page so you can make those informed decisions later. Okay, so this is just the admin page for your, this is an admin page. So once you create your film page, this is what it'll look like. This is for the cemeteries, obviously. But if you go to the left-hand side there, there's just a little button that says Insight. So you're just going to click that. And this is what will pop up. And it's a little overwhelming the first time you look at it, just because there's so much going on, but it's really not that scary, I promise. The first thing I just want to point out is that the time frame is at the top. And so just pay attention to that, because obviously if you're looking at the last 7 days versus the last, 48 or 60 days, your numbers are going to change drastically. I never understood why it doesn't say, like time frame, it just says page summary. So I always like pointing that out to someone who hasn't used the Insights tab before. So that's all that is. And then typically what I like to tell people is that middle column has the most important metrics on average. I'm not saying that's like every single person that's the most important, but a good rule of thumb is those middle 4 metrics. And I'm going to talk about each of those in a second here. But before I leave this page, I just wanted to point out at the bottom left there, that videos tab. I admit that's something I haven't used a lot personally, just because I haven't worked with a lot of films before, but I did take a peek, and that has a lot of nice insights for like how long people view your video, which videos are getting the most views, and just a few other things that as film people, I'm sure you will find more interesting and helpful. But I'm going to spend a little bit of time on those other 4 metrics right now. So again, these are the 4 I would pay the most attention to if I were you. They have a wide range of what they measure, which is nice because it kind of gives you a comprehensive look. So they're all pretty self-explanatory. I won't go into too much of a description, especially because you'll have this. But again, if you're looking at your metrics, that middle column, these 4, measures are what I would pay the most attention to. The one thing I do want to point out just at the bottom there at page followers, there is a difference between page likes and page followers. So page likes is just anyone who likes your film, but that doesn't mean that they are actively following your page. So it's not quite as valuable, whereas page followers are people who not only like your page, but they've opted into actively receiving your posts and, viewing your messages in their timeline. So if you're looking to gauge how many people are actually seeing your posts on a daily basis, your page followers are going to be a more accurate measure of that. Okay, so I'm just going to spend a few minutes on Facebook ads. So everything we've talked about up till now has been completely free. So no cost to you other than your time, just getting those posts out there and scheduled. So Facebook ads, I laugh at this picture, but it's also kind of funny because it's true. So Facebook ads, you give Facebook, one of your posts or a video to promote. You give them money, you tell them who to show it to, and then you just kind of walk away. It's like it's really easy. It seems intimidating, but it's really helpful, really easy. So hopefully you can benefit from it. So like I said, the reason why I spent so much time on the Facebook page is that Facebook ads only really work well if you have a really nice and well done Facebook page. So that's one element you need. And then the second one is I always tell people, make sure you have your payment method set up. And this is all done through the admin page. It's very Should be very self-explanatory when you go in. But I ran into this once where I had all my ads set up and then I didn't have my payment information there and I had to start all over again. So I would just recommend having all your credit card info in before you start actually writing your ads. Okay, we've already talked about this. I just have it in there as a reminder, but before you start an ad, just because you are investing extra money in it, you want to have a specific goal, so something you hope that the ad achieves, and you want to have a more segmented audience. I don't know if this is true, but I would think for film, the audience is very broad because it's really just anyone who is interested in viewing it. And I'd be curious to see if there's any differences in that. So that's fine for your normal Facebook page, but for ads, you might want to narrow it down a little bit. It could be by geographic location, by age, by gender, by interest. There's so many different ways you can narrow that down, but you do want it to be a little more targeted than, a typical post would be. So these are just some example goals, and again, it just depends on where you're at in that film journey. So just keep those in mind. And then these tie in with this next slide here, which is the Facebook ad objectives. So like that photo with Leonardo DiCaprio just said, Facebook really wants you to succeed. And that's why they take so much control in running your campaigns, because the idea there is the better you do, the more money you'll spend, which is the more money Facebook gets in the long run. So they have these preset objectives. So when you go to create your ad, they're going to ask you to choose one of these. So I highlighted the 3 that I think would be most relevant for film, which is boost a post or event, promote your page in general, or promote your call to action button. So the boost a post, that is exactly what it sounds like, where you just take a normal post and pay Facebook to show it to more people. The event thing is interesting because say you're hosting a screening, or you have a location that you're doing something at, you can also pay Facebook to promote that as an event. So if you're having a screening or a special event, they can promote it that way too. You can just promote your page in general. So if you just want more people to, see your film and the page, and maybe your trailers on the page or something, you could do it that way. Or you can promote your call to action button. So that would be great if you have one of those buy tickets, purchase now, book now buttons on your Facebook page. You can you can pay Facebook to promote that button. That is a tongue twister. So those again are the 3 I thought would be most relevant to you, but there's all those other ones you can also explore. So again, just target audience. I won't spend too much more time on this, but again, there's so many different ways you can narrow that down. And then you can also decide if you want to market to your current followers or if you want to reach new people. Something I thought was interesting, I read a case study where they actually marketed to their current followers to buy tickets because they knew that they were at least somewhat interested in the film. So that might be more effective if you're ready to buy tickets. Whereas if you're just trying to generate interest, it would probably make more sense to market to those new followers, people that aren't already following your page. Just a nice tool here I wanted to point out, so you knew what it was if you go to the ads platform. Facebook has this nice measure. It's very complex, as you can see, but it'll tell you as you're inputting those different factors for your audience, if you're in that like nice in between, because you don't want to be too broad, but you don't want to be too specific. So this little dial will shift depending on what demographics you're putting in there. Okay, so you have all this done. Now you're actually ready to go create your ad. I'm going to kind of breeze through this. This is everything we just talked about with copywriting. So ads work the exact same way. You have a text element, a visual element, and then a call to action button, typically. There's a few different formats, but this is the basic structure. Okay, so these are the different formats I mentioned. Again, I imagine for film, you're going to want to be promoting, like Dan said, maybe your 20-second clip or your trailer, depending on what the goal is of your ad. So you're going to select the single video format, most likely. However, you can see there's a lot of other ones, and these all coincide with different objectives. So those objectives I mentioned, each one of those coincides with one of these formats. So this is it's a helpful chart that I use. And again, you'll have these slides later so you can refer back to it. But you can see that each of those objectives has certain ad formats that they're eligible for. So luckily that video element is, pretty much applicable to everything. So it shouldn't be an issue for you, but just good to keep in mind if you ever do want to run image ads. Some of these are, a little more exclusive. All right, when it comes to your budget, there's a few different ways you can do this. You can do a total budget. So you can say to Facebook, here's $300 and spend it over 2 weeks. And Facebook will just decide, if they are getting more hits on one day, they might spend, $50 one day and then the next day only 20, just depending on web traffic. That's what I would recommend doing, just because, again, it's the most user friendly and you're trusting Facebook to make the best decisions for you because they're all knowing and have all their algorithms in place. Or you can pick a daily budget, which isn't bad. It's just, again, it won't account for those fluctuations in web traffic that a total budget would do. You are only charged when something takes place. So you are only charged when people actually see your ad, click on it. Again, it all goes back to those objectives. But that's why it might fluctuate day over day. And again, Facebook will give you all these recommendations on how much you should spend, what the duration should be. And you'll see all that when you go into the ads platform. But again, I've just learned over the past several years of working with ads that Facebook is normally right, as is Google, when it comes to those ads and how much you should spend and how long you should run them for. So I would just pay attention to what they're doing and see if you can get as close to their recommendations as possible. All that being said, if you tell Facebook you only want to spend $300, it will not go over $300. It might go under, it might, be like $298, but it won't go ever over the max budget you set. All right, so the last thing here, I'm just going to show you how to get to ads because I think part of the confusion is just where all the stuff is. So this is back to the old Facebook view, but all you're going to do, you're going to go again to your personal page. You're going to go down to the pages you manage, and then this screen will pop up and the Ad Center tab is right there. So as long as you can get to Ad Center, you should be set. So once you click on that, this is the screen that will pop up. And again, it's pretty user. I think they make it easy again, so you can spend more money. But you just click on either this create ad button or over here. They're the same thing. I don't know why they're in two different places. But this screen is also nice. Again, this is just by clicking the ad center at the top of your page, but it has a summary here. So if you're running several ads at the same time, or whether you're just running one, it's just a nice snapshot of what's going on. And again, you can toggle the time frame over here to see, the last 180 days or 60 days or whatever it is. And then down here is where if you are running more than one ad at a time, you can see how each one is doing individually. And if you clicked on any one of these, it would give you more in-depth information. Okay, so I clicked create an ad, and then this is the screen that pops up. So you'll see over here it has the ad format. I had clicked promote your page. It's a really quick pop-up, so I couldn't get a screen grab, but like the second you click that create an ad thing, it's gonna come up, it's gonna ask you what your goal is, one of those objectives. And so I clicked promote page just because that's the most popular one. It's gonna ask you to select your format. So again, for you guys, I would say that'd probably be single video. And then this is just where you'd upload. You have your text if you choose to include it, all that fun stuff. The one thing I wanted to make, this preview is really interesting because you can toggle between desktop, mobile, and tablet feeds. So you can make sure that once you have your video uploaded, it translates well to all those different devices. All right, so these are just scrolling down. This is on the same page. This is just my screen wasn't big enough. So if you scroll down again, we saw this already. Over here is where you would put your ad budget in. Again, total budget, duration. This is where, as you're changing it, this is dynamic. So it'll change depending on what you're saying. You can run it continuously. So again, the daily budget is nice. If you have a never ending budget and just want to spend $20 a day for like a whole year, you can do that. Just depends on what your goals are. This is the audience page. So again, I just like showing you this so when you go in, it's not the first time you're looking at it. So you can choose all these different targeting things. You can name it and save it for future use, which I really like doing. So here for the cemeteries, we have a Cleveland area general audience, which has all these different parameters. So once you create an audience here, you don't need to make it again. Locations, detailed targeting. This is where you would put any, again, like it says, demographics, interest behaviors. And then down here is our nice little toggle friend barometer thing that will tell you if you're being too broad or too specific. So again, it's really user friendly. It's just getting there and then just kind of being familiar with what you need to have ahead of time. It's not really like, it's not user friendly in the sense that it's hard to start and stop. So I would just say have all this information ready so when you go in, you can fill it out all at once, click promote, and then you're done.